Ladies and gentlemen, we are now looking at the solving quadratic equation using completing square methods. So let's look at some examples. Number one, x equals 4x plus 32 equal to 0. So now we have x squared plus 12x plus 32 is equal to 0. So what are we going to do here? From the question, we have this. So the first thing that we are going to do, we now take the constant and transfer it to the other side. So whenever you have equation that we are going to apply the completing square method to solve, the first thing that we are going to do is to transfer the constant from that equation and change it to the other side. So therefore now we have x squared plus 12x is equal to minus 32. That is the first thing that we are going to do. And then after we do that, the next thing that we are going to do is to now look at the coefficient of x. So what is the coefficient of x? The coefficient of x is 12. So we are now going to take 12. So we'll take the coefficient of x 12. So this is a rule. If you are applying completing square method in solving mathematical problem, always you take the coefficient of x and divide it by 2, and then you square it. So now we are now going to take 12, we divide it by 2, and then we now square it. So this is a general rule. So in every completing square method, what you are going to do when you have your x value is to take the coefficient of x. When you take the coefficient of x, you divide it by 2, and then you square it. Then after you square it, you are now going to add it to both the equation. So we are now going to add it both left and right. So of course I think we can simply see that we can divide 12 into 2. So 12 into 2, we have 6. So therefore we now have 6. So then we already have the square here, so we now take the square. So after we have this, then the next thing, we are now going to take the half of the coefficient of x here and we add it to go at both the sides of the equation. So therefore we now have x squared plus 12x plus open bracket 6 squared is equal to minus 32 plus open bracket 6 squared. So we now add the half of the we now add the square of the half of the coefficient of x to both sides of the equation. Then after we do that, what is the next? So we are now going to neglect this. Then we are now going to take this, and so already this one and this one, they have square. So we are now going to create a bracket and put them together. So therefore we now have x plus this plus 6. So they all have square. Then we now create bracket and square all of them. And then now we have is equal to minus 32 plus the square root of 16 is, sorry, the square root of 6 is 32. So we are now going to say 32. So now the next thing, we are now going to say x plus 6. Then we now square it. We now have equals to minus 32 plus this one is 36. So minus 32 plus 36, we have 4. So we now take this. We have x plus 6. We square everything, and then we now see equals to 4. So what we want to get from this equation is x. So therefore what we are going to do is simple. We are now going to clear the square here. So how are we going to clear the square? By introducing roots to both sides of the equation. So we now introduce roots here, we also introduce it here. So therefore this one will now cancel this, we are now left with x plus 6 is equal to, so whenever we have a square root, we can introduce plus or minus. So the square root of 4 is something as plus or minus 4. So the plus or minus 2. So the square root of 4 is 2. So whenever we introduce the square root, we can introduce plus or minus. So therefore the square root of 4 is something as plus or minus 2. So now what we are going to do, we are now going to transfer this to this side. So we now have x is equal to, this one is positive, so when we change to the other side, it will now change to negative. So we have x is equal to minus 6 plus or minus 2. So therefore now, we can now say x, it can be minus 6 plus 2, or x is equal to minus 2 minus 6. So it can be minus 2 minus 6 or minus 6 plus 2. So therefore our x1 here is equal to minus 6 plus 2, we have minus 4. And then our x3 is equal to minus 2 minus 6 is equal to minus 8. Well, these are the roots of the equation. So this is how we calculate quadratic equation using completing square method. So we have another example here. So we have 4x squared minus 8x minus 32. So in this case, the first thing that we are going to do is we have to clear the coefficient of x squared. So the coefficient of x squared in this equation is 4. So we have to clear it. So we are now going to say divide the coefficient by 4. So therefore this we now cancel this. So we have x squared, this one divided by this, we have minus 3x, and this one divided by this, we have minus 8 is equal to 0. So we now remember from the previous example, whenever we have something like this, then we have to transfer the constant to the other side. So therefore we now have x squared minus 3x equal to 8. So now what are we going to do the next thing? So the next thing, we are now going to take the coefficient of x, we divide it by 2 and then we square it. So the coefficient of x in this equation is minus 2. So we now have minus 2 and we divide it by 2 and then we now square it. So this is what we are going to add to both sides of the equation. I think this is simple. We can now simply say 2 divided by minus 2 divided by 2 and minus 1 and then we now square it. So we are now going to take minus 1 square and we add it to both sides of the equation. So therefore we now have x squared minus 2x plus minus 1 plus minus 1 square, then is equal to 8 plus open bracket minus 1 squared. So we have this. So that for the next thing that we are going to do is we are now going to ignore minus 2 and we now use this one's square. So therefore we are now going to say take this x and minus 1. So we now have x minus 1. Then we now open bracket, we close bracket, and then now square this, because this one have square and this one have square, so we now square it. Then we now have equals to, so we have 8, so minus 1 square, minus 1 square is plus 1. Minus 1 square is plus 1. So therefore we have 8 plus 1. Therefore, we are now going to take this, so we have x minus 1 square is equal to 8 plus 1 is 9. So we have to, for we to clear this square, we have to introduce square roots. We have to introduce square roots. So now we introduce square root. So we have plus or minus here. So this one will now cancel this. We now have x minus 1 is equal to square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. So therefore now we have x is equal to 1 plus or minus 2. So now we can now say x1 is equal to 1 plus 2, or x2 is equal to 1 minus 2. So therefore x1 is equal to 1 plus 2 have 3, and x2 is equal to 1 minus 2. So we have minus 1. So this is the value of x. So this is how to calculate quadratic equation using completing square method. So I'm now going to give some exercise so that at least we try it and we fill the answer on the comment section. Okay? So ladies and gentlemen, let's try this. We have x squared plus 14x plus 24 is equal to 0. We have x squared plus 6x plus 8 is equal to 0. And then we have x squared minus 2x minus 15 is equal to 0. Let's try these questions, solve them, and please put the answer on the comment section. And ladies and gentlemen, if you did not subscribe to my channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.